CEO's chair crashed to the floor. A wine glass shattered. And for one terrifying second, nobody in the restaurant moved. The woman in the red dress stood trapped between three angry men. Her hands were shaking. "Please," she said softly. "This isn't the place." One of the men stepped closer. "Oh, it's exactly the place." Another grabbed the back of her chair. "You thought you could ruin us and walk away?" The entire restaurant looked down at their plates. No one wanted trouble. No one wanted to get involved. At table 6, a little girl looked up from her dessert. "Dad." The man beside her didn't answer. "Dad, that lady is scared." He looked toward the commotion. The young woman was cornered. The men were twice her size. One of them slammed his hand onto the table. "You owe us an answer." She stepped backward. There was nowhere left to go. Then the little girl said something that changed everything. "Mom used to say good people help scared people." The man slowly put down his fork. 10 seconds later, the entire restaurant would remember the stranger from table 6, because he was about to stand up. Daniel Carter was 38 years old, a widowed single father, a mechanic, a man who preferred fixing engines over talking to people. Tonight was special. It was his daughter Emma's birthday. She had wanted one thing: dinner somewhere fancy. So Daniel had saved for 3 months and brought her to the nicest restaurant in the city. He wanted this night to be perfect. No drama, no trouble, just his daughter smiling across the table. Then he heard the woman again. "Please let me leave." The little girl tugged on his sleeve. "Dad." Daniel sighed. He knew that look. It was the same look Emma's mother used to give him. The look that meant, "You already know what the right thing is." He stood up. The entire restaurant watched. He walked toward the group calmly. One of the men turned. "What do you want?" Daniel stopped. "That's enough." The man laughed. "Mind your own business." Daniel looked at the frightened woman, then back at him. "Leave her alone." Another man stepped forward. "And who are you?" "Just a customer." The man smiled. "Then go back to your table." Daniel didn't move. The first man laughed. "You don't understand. This is company business." The woman finally spoke. "No, it's not." Her voice shook. "They're former partners." Daniel looked at her. "You know them?" She nodded. "They lost their positions today." One of the men exploded. "Because of you." The entire restaurant jumped. The woman looked terrified. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "You fired them?" The first man sneered. "She's the CEO." Suddenly the room became quiet. Several people recognized her name. Victoria Hayes, founder and CEO of Hayes Financial Group. One of the youngest billionaires in the country. Yet tonight she didn't look powerful. She looked exhausted and scared. The angry man pointed at her. "She destroyed our careers." Victoria shook her head. "You stole from the company." "Prove it." "I already did." The man moved closer. "You think money makes you untouchable?" Daniel stepped between them. "No." The man frowned. "What?" "But threatening a woman doesn't make you a victim." Several people nodded. The man looked furious. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Maybe." Daniel's voice remained calm. "But I know what intimidation looks like." The second man stepped forward. "You should sit back down." "No." "You want trouble?" Daniel sighed. "No. I want to finish my daughter's birthday dinner." A few people laughed nervously. The man looked confused. "Then why are you standing here?" Daniel looked at Victoria. "Because she asked you to leave." "I didn't hear her." Victoria swallowed. Then quietly said, "Please leave." The restaurant became silent. The first man smiled. "No." Then he shoved Daniel. A collective gasp filled the room. Emma stood up. "Daddy." Daniel didn't move. He simply looked at the man's hand. Then at him. "You shouldn't have done that." The man laughed. "Oh yeah." Then something unexpected happened. Daniel took one step forward. Suddenly the smile disappeared from the man's face. There was something in Daniel's eyes. Something calm. Something dangerous. The second man whispered, "Wait." The first man frowned. "What?" The second man stared. "I know him." Daniel looked annoyed. "No, you don't." The man swallowed. "I served in Afghanistan." Silence. "So? You were there too." Daniel's expression changed. "You've got the wrong guy." "No." The man stepped closer. "Oh my God." The restaurant was completely silent. The man looked stunned. "You were Sergeant Carter." Daniel didn't answer. You pulled 6 men out of a burning convoy. Victoria looked at him. The first man looked confused. What is he talking about? The former soldier's voice shook. You saved my life. Nobody moved. The entire restaurant stared at Daniel. Emma blinked. Dad. Daniel looked uncomfortable. It was a long time ago. The former soldier's eyes filled with emotion. I thought you died. No. You disappeared. Daniel looked down. My wife got sick. Silence. I left the military. The restaurant became quiet. The man stood straighter. Then he did something nobody expected. He saluted. Right there. In the middle of the restaurant. Several veterans in nearby tables slowly stood. One by one. A few of them also saluted. The room became completely silent. Victoria stared at Daniel. The single dad from table 6 was a decorated war hero. The first angry man looked suddenly nervous. You were in the army? Daniel sighed. Years ago. The former soldier looked at the 3 men. You picked the wrong person tonight. The first man laughed nervously. This is ridiculous. Then police officers entered the restaurant. Everyone turned. Victoria looked surprised. The manager hurried over. I called them. One officer approached. Ms. Hayes. She nodded. We received your message. The first man turned pale. What message? Victoria looked at him. The one I sent when you started following me. The officers looked at the men. Sir, we need to speak with you. The first man backed away. This is a misunderstanding. The officer shook his head. We also have evidence regarding the missing company funds. The room exploded with whispers. Victoria had been right. They had stolen from the company. The men were escorted away. As they passed Daniel, the first man looked furious. This isn't over. Daniel smiled. Pretty sure it is. The doors closed. Silence. Then the entire restaurant burst into applause. Victoria looked overwhelmed. She turned toward Daniel. Thank you. He shrugged. You should thank my daughter. She looked confused. Emma walked over. I told him to help you. Victoria smiled. You did. Emma nodded proudly. Mom said helping scared people is important. Victoria's eyes softened. Your mom sounds wise. Emma smiled. She was. For the first time all evening, Daniel saw tears in Victoria's eyes. You okay? She laughed softly. I think so. She looked around the restaurant. Honestly, I wasn't sure anyone would stand up. Daniel nodded. Most people are afraid. Weren't you? Of course. She looked surprised. You didn't look scared. He smiled. Being scared and doing the right thing are 2 different things. The restaurant became quiet again. Those words seemed to stay with everyone. Then Victoria noticed the birthday cake on table 6. She looked at Emma. Is today your birthday? Emma nodded. I'm 10. Victoria smiled. That's a big deal. She turned to the restaurant manager. Tonight's dinner is on me. The entire restaurant cheered. Emma's eyes widened. Really? Victoria laughed. Really? The little girl hugged her without warning. Victoria froze, then slowly hugged her back. Daniel smiled. Careful. She adopts people quickly. Everyone laughed. An hour later, the restaurant had almost emptied. Victoria sat at table 6 eating a piece of birthday cake. She looked at Daniel. You never told anyone? About what? The military. He shrugged. It was another life. You saved people. So did a lot of others. She studied him. You don't like attention. No. Why? Daniel looked at his daughter. Because she doesn't care about medals. Emma nodded. I like pancakes. Everyone laughed. Victoria smiled. Then she became serious. You know, tonight you saved me too. Daniel shook his head. No. I just stood up. She looked at him. Sometimes that's the same thing. Silence. Then Emma asked, do you have kids? Victoria smiled sadly. No. You should. Daniel nearly choked. Emma. What? She's nice. Victoria burst out laughing. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, she laughed like someone who had forgotten how. She looked at the little girl. Thank you. Then she looked at Daniel. And thank you for standing up. He smiled. My daughter would have never let me sit down. As they prepared to leave, Victoria stopped him. Can I ask something? Sure. If I ever need help again. Daniel laughed. I fix cars. I know. She smiled. But I think you're good at fixing bad days too. He didn't know what to say. Emma did. He's the best. Everyone laughed again. As they walked toward the door, Victoria watched them. A tired single father holding his daughter's hand. No expensive suit. No bodyguards. No need for recognition. Just a good man who couldn't ignore someone in trouble. And she realized something important. The strongest person in the room isn't always the richest. Sometimes, it's the quiet single dad at table 6, who stands up when everyone else looks away. VidIQ